Warning: the following video contains explicit language, which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Hope you're all there watching. Hope everything's been going good for you this week so far. Today's Thursday here as I record this, and it was nice up till today. Today it's been raining, but the previous days there was pretty nice out. Up in the 80s and stuff like that, but we got to get rain sometime. There was a big fire, I guess, in Orrington, some chemical plant, I guess what it was. It caught fire, and they had a warning go out, air quality warning. It showed up on my phone, my cell phone, and it said something about smoke, and I was like, well, what's smoke? Because I didn't see any smoke in the sky, but I found out somebody else had told me that there was a fire down there. It's like, well, I couldn't find anything of it online, so I didn't know what the hell was going on. So it was a fire, and it started late in the night before and into the morning, and then when I woke up, and then they had put it out. So I was like, geez. But the air kind of did smell funny, sort of like rotten fruit. It just... I was like, I thought maybe it was just the plants or something, but no, it wasn't that. It was the smell coming, the wind carrying it up this way. So I was like, shit, so I hope I didn't get some fucking cancer there from breathing in the fumes there from that shit from all the way down there. So yeah, anyway. So they had this goddamn UFC fight event that took place at the White House here. Was it yesterday or the day before? And apparently it was a flop. Nobody liked it, okay? Even Republicans hated it. They didn't like the optics of it because it looked like something out of a fucking apocalyptic movie, like The Running Man, having this on the White House lawn, going on, and people just got sick, seeing that going on. And I'm like, we knew that was going to happen. I'm not a UFC fan or watcher of that anyway, okay? That's just another version of professional wrestling as far as I'm concerned. I don't think a lot of that's even real. But that's something that's a throwback to what Trump used to do with Vince McMahon there. And that's something he knows. And he thought that doing that would be a big eye catcher to celebrate America's 250th. And it's like, what the fuck does that have to do with America's birthday? But that was the best idea he could come up with. Nobody liked the idea from the beginning, and they knew it was going to be a flop if it ever came about, and it did, and it was a flop. Even a lot of Republicans didn't like it. And so yeah, people are pissed that took place. I don't know if Trump even got the fucking message or if he even gave a shit. Okay, but there's been rumor going around, and it's just rumor really, because I don't see any facts to back this up. But somebody opened their app there and said something online, and now it's catching on. I notice on a lot of frickin' right-wing talking rooms and stuff like that. They're trying to say that Trump was helped by China to become president because they knew China. Because China knew that Trump was his ideas were going to bring down this country, and that was a way to get America out of the way so China could become more dominant in the world in the form of trade. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, Trump has done a lot to this country, and that's pretty lopsided our fucking trading ability. Tariffs and all that shit, and nobody can understand why the son of a bitch can't understand how a tariff works. Okay, and so people obviously have been wrestling with this for months now. It's like he sees the damage that his tariffs have caused, and yet he still thinks that that's going to bring about prosperity. He's telling us bullshit. Why is he doing this? So people are coming up with ideas. And I think that's what this started off as an idea that maybe Trump isn't really in this for himself, but he's doing this for China. Okay, I don't know. But, it's one of many theories, I think, that's going around about Trump, about why he's crippled our our economy, and why he's destroyed our ability to trade with other countries, and why the value of our money is going through the toilet. Okay, there's no logic to it. He's deliberately people think he's deliberately destroying the country. That everybody was saying he was going to save America. He promised everybody he was going to do that and bring us prosperity, and he hasn't done any of that. Not a bit. And so I have this video here from Raw News that shows the polling data right now with Trump and Republicans, and they're struggling. Okay, some of these primary races have shown some interesting data so far, and there's a lot of people changing their minds about Republicans and Trump and all this stuff. I mean, they really, really want to fucking see some change, and they're going. Some of these people are going to turn on their own party to get something different, because that's how desperate they feel. So let's go to the video here, and then we'll come back and talk more about that.
Welcome to the show. I have more good news for you today. MAGA land is freaking out. They are freaking out, and it is delicious. I have so much fun stuff to share with you guys in this video, so you have to stay tuned to the end, because MAGA operatives are finally realizing that Donald Trump screwed them with this war, and they are sending up SOS flare signals. One of them has now apparently turned into a socialist or a communist, and they're begging Trump to do what they slammed Joe Biden for doing. So stay tuned for that. And at the end, I'm going to explain the one thing, or I guess a couple things, that has them in this panic. So first, take a listen to what this MAGA-loving pollster said on Fear News Network, of all places.
Right now, I'll tell you, Sean, it's too early for us to say. I'm concerned about one thing, and that is Republican turnout. In Georgia, Democrats turned out 150,000 more early voters than Republicans in the red state of Georgia. That's not a good sign to me. I think more has to be done now to lay the groundwork. And I also say one other thing. I don't think enough of President Trump's achievements are being put out there for the general public to see. They see this mirage that's created by the liberal media. They hear nothing but war. The president has achieved phenomenal things, including, by the way, the stock market hitting another record, I think, today. But you don't hear about it. And I think the Republicans need to start making that case, whether they have to buy ads or whatever, right now, because it's going to be too late in October and November.
Ah, yes, the messaging. It's just the messaging, you guys. If only the voters knew about what Trump was doing. I mean, that's what we always say, but they're not achievements. And Guy, I hate to tell you, but they do know. They absolutely do know. That's why his polling is shit. And then, as you heard there, he cites what again? The stock market. Always with the freaking stock market, which, number one, the only thing that Trump has to do with the stock market and how high it is negative. It's actually a negative thing. Yes, the stock market is hitting all-time highs. You know why? Because he is making all of his greedy, bastard, wealthy oligarch friends and donors wealthy beyond their imagination, because number one, he refuses to regulate them. refuses to regulate anything having to do with AI or businesses that are polluting our country and the world. He's started this needless war. So it sent crude oil prices skyrocketing. And so they're making money hand over fist. So, I mean, you pointing out the stock market isn't really the own you think it is, guy. It's a cell phone. And not cell phone, but self-own. Anyway, just want to make sure that came out right. So that was just the first panic. That was the first panic attack I have to share with you. Now check out what this Trump-loving conservative said on CNN. This is almost unbelievable.
The problem is that the American people who voted for Donald Trump are hurting. They are bearing the cost of this war. He has to somehow alleviate the pain and the suffering of working class Americans. In my view, the best way to do that is a stimulus check. I think he needs to give people
Does anybody hear this?
a tariff rebate in order to get them through the summer months.
A tariff
Because
rebate?
yeah, tariff rebate.
How about just get rid of the tariffs?
Well, we brought in 200.
Weren't you an advocate for the tariffs?
Yes, exactly.
So then why are you asking for a rebate?
That's exactly what
But
a
you
rebate
can't give
is.
a stimulus check while inflate, why you haven't done anything.
We brought in $200 billion in tariffs, and we should now take some of that money and give it to Americans who are struggling to pay for gas and groceries.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? I mean, these people are unreal. Like, all of a sudden, they become socialists and communists when they screw things up, and then they need a way to get out of it. But when Biden sent out checks to help people during a global pandemic, when the entire world was locked down, oh, you're a socialist. Oh, see, Biden caused this inflation. This is why we have inflation, because he was just handing out money to everybody. Really? And then what happened? I thought we were all already supposed to get these checks, right? What wasn't everyone supposed to get these tariff checks? What happened to them? And oh my God. So, now checks are good. Checks good when Trump is in office, even though inflation is already sky high, but let's throw gasoline on that fire. Like I said, they're in a full-blown panic and meltdown. And here is one of the reasons why. So this is the most recent Economist YouGov poll. This is even more recent than the one that I showed you. I think it was on Monday. So as you can see here, Trump just hit a record high disapproval rating of 61%. 6 out of every 10 voters, a little bit more, now say, I disapprove of him. And it pretty much in every poll, even MAGA-friendly polls, conservative pollsters are bringing him in the mid to high 30s. It's pathetic. And then check this out. So this is the same question. This is approval or disapproval. But as you can see here, it's broken down by their 2024 vote and as well as their ideology, because not everybody who's a conservative is MAGA, right? Or, some are moderate, some are more conservative, some are more liberal, same thing with actual leftists. So as you can see, if you look over, the first columns, of course, are the total and then Harris. But if you look at the third column, you see there's 18% of the people who voted for Trump in 2024 now disapprove of him. And then if you follow that line all the way to the far right, those are people who consider themselves MAGA. 9% of the people who consider themselves MAGA now disapprove of him. And then look at this next one. So this is the same question, but this is their party ID. So 96% of Democrats, 71% of independents, and 16% of Republicans disapprove of Trump. They disapprove of his job performance. 71% of independents, you guys. You can't get any higher than that, I don't think, with independents. Like, I don't think it's possible. So more than 7 out of every 10 voters now say, yeah, the guy sucks. So, and that's just one pollster. Fox came out with their latest poll, and oh my God, is it bad news for the Republicans? So this is what they reported on their main page. It says Fox News poll, Democratic unity, Republican crossovers shape Ohio Senate race. So their MAGA candidate is losing in the blood red state of Ohio, you guys. And what they're saying here is Democrats are picking up some Republican votes. And in that article, they pointed out that Trump won this state by 11 points in 2024. He won it in all 3 elections that he's run in. So, I mean, this is really bad. And now he is underwater by 15 points in Ohio. Here's what they wrote about it. They said by a 15-point margin, Ohioans view Trump negatively. 42% hold a favorable opinion and 57% an unfavorable one. That's more than a 20-point swing compared to his +6 net positive rating, 52 to 46% in the November 2024 Ohio Fox News voter analysis election survey. That is really key because Trump always said, oh, well, Fox News is always a bad poll for me, blah, blah, blah. No, not true. Not true. So it goes on to say the poll of Ohio voters released Wednesday finds Trump's ratings are about on par with views of Republican incumbent Senator John Husted, 41% favorable, 50% unfavorable, while challenger and former Ohio Senator Brown is viewed significantly more positively, 53% versus 44%. So the former Ohio Senator Brown, who they're referring to, if you aren't aware, is Sherrod Brown. That is the Democrat who's running against John Husted, the Republican. So Sherrod Brown is just wiping the floor with him because people know him. They liked it. I mean, when he used to be the senator there, they liked what was happening. And so they appreciated him. And so look at where they stand. This is a head-to-head of the two candidates. So Sherrod Brown, 53%, and then Husted is down at 45. So he has Sherrod Brown has an 8-point lead. So it's well outside of the margin of error, which is plus or minus 3% or 3 points. And then look at this one. So their polling shows that being too closely aligned with Trump is now considered to be negative in Ohio. That is such a huge reversal. So that's the Senate race. The Ohio governor's race, though, that is way closer. So the Democrat is up by only 1 point. That's a toss-up at this point because that's within the margin of error, obviously. If I had to guess now, at this point, I would say we're going to see a lot of split tickets. We're going to see a lot of split ticket voters. The reason I say that is I think that there's a lot of independents and maybe even some Republicans who want to see Sherrod Brown in the Senate. They want him there to act as a check on Donald Trump because of what he's doing with the economy and the war and everything else. But I think that they would prefer a Republican in charge of their state, which unfortunately is Vivek Ramaswamy, scumbag. So anyway, we'll see. And then I want to share this last one with you. This is a Republican warning. So take a look at this. This was an article in Politico. They were down, I guess they did go down to Iowa. They were talking about the Iowa race there. They were breaking down all the results from the election on Tuesday night. There was a primary, if you weren't aware. And there was kind of a shock defeat. So there was a Trump-endorsed gubernatorial candidate who lost. He lost to the more moderate, traditional Republican. And the Democratic candidate for Congress said this. He said, "We're leading the nation in farm foreclosures, farm suicide rates skyrocketing. And so the Trump signs and Trump flags are coming down because they say we've been betrayed." So that's his take, but he lives there. So, I assume he's not making that up. And then they also spoke with a man named Drew Klein. So he is the regional vice president for a conservative group that you've probably heard of. It's called Americans for Prosperity. So Klein told them, quote, "The reality is, if voters do not trust the Republican elected officials and candidates with the future of the economy, they're not going to vote for them this November. That is what is going to decide the election in November." So that spells doom. Like if he's right, if that's what it's all about, which it seems that it is, they're done, because Iowa farmers have so many reasons now not to trust Republicans on the economy. The vast majority voted for Trump, and their lives have now become exponentially harder ever since he took office. And it's because of the tariffs. It's now because of the war. As I've mentioned so many times before, it's not just gasoline prices that are rising. There's also, you have this shortage of fertilizer. They can't get fertilizer because it can't make it through the Strait of Hormuz. So they're paying astronomical prices for what they can get, and then they're short. So, I mean, it's directly affecting their pocketbook in many, many ways. Trump's presidency, I should say. So anyway, guys, there's the good news for Democrats. We'll see how things transpire over the next 5 months or whatever it is, but it's not going to get better. It's not. Like I keep saying, even if the war ended today, we still have months and months after that before everything starts moving and everything gets settled out. And we're now at the bottom of the barrel on our oil supply. So, all right. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.
Okay, so of course, things have changed since she recorded that video. Okay, they've opened up the Strait of Hormuz, I guess, and I've already seen gas prices. They're now at $3.57 a gallon right now here. So the prices are coming down. Still too high for my taste, if you ask me. Okay, but they are coming down. I don't know about, if you've been paying attention to gas prices, you're probably seeing some of the same results. But it's too little too late. Okay, the damage is done. Like she said, it's going to take months and months. If we stop all the hostilities with Iran, okay, then it would take us the rest of this year into next year to kind of get the ball rolling. But that's if Trump gets rid of the fucking tariffs as well and all this other crap that he's implemented. All that stuff together has got to go. If the country's going to get a breath of fucking air, okay, instead of him strangling this country the way he's done, okay, he's going to have to let go of the country's throat so it can fucking come back to life, all right? Economically speaking. And as, she pointed out, they keep bringing up the fucking Dow. And I've already told you before, the Dow only reflects how the wealthy are doing in this economy, okay? Everybody else, they're not represented in this, okay? I mean, I laugh when I was in school, high school, there were teachers there that were investing money in the stock market, and they weren't putting big money in that. And they acted like they had millions going into this thing and stuff. And I'm thinking, even then I knew this was not meant for average people to be getting involved in. The stock market will take your money quicker than you can, get returns, And I'm thinking, maybe it's a form of gambling. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe these are the people that were doing that are the same people who will take their last buck, go bet on a horse. Okay, maybe that's what drove a lot of these teachers that I knew in school to go invest in the stock market, because it was their way of gambling. Okay, I don't know. But I laugh at that because none of those people, I've seen some of them teachers today, and they're still living the same way they did back then when they were fucking around in the 80s there with the stock market. Okay, none of them made any headway with that. So what that stock market is showing is how prosperous the wealthy are doing. And funny that they are doing so well, because the opposite for us is also true. We're actually doing worse. So what does that mean? It means our money is flowing upward, whether we know this or not. The money you're spending, most of that's going into their pockets. Okay? And so we're doing worse as they are doing better. Okay? When they do better, that's not good for us. It isn't. And the more people brag about the Dow and how the stock market's doing good, we have to look at that in the opposite vision, because that's true. We're doing worse. Okay? Nobody seems to care about how bad the working class are doing. You hear anybody brag about that? Ever? No, nobody talks about that. And so, as the farmers, like she said, are losing their ass, okay, and they're unable to do things. I mean, having this Strait of Hormuz open up here isn't going to save the farmers. It's too late. A lot of them have already sold their farms to companies and stuff like that out there, which isn't going to help with the food prices in the stores, because they're going to charge through the nose for anything that they can get out on the markets. All right, so like I said, we lose either way. We lose either way, and that's because, you know, our economy, the capitalist system, has been tailored to work against the working class now, because of the deregulation on this and tax breaks and all the stuff that our government is kissing the ass of corporate America so much these days that now they practically run the country. They buy up all our senators, all our congressmen, on the president, okay, and they ask, you know, do this, do that, you know, so that way we can make more money. But you can't do that without taking it away from us, the working people. There's no more money to be taken that isn't going to affect us even more. All right. And seeing, you know, the president make this UFC bullshit thing that he did here this week, with our tax money. I want you to bear that in mind. He used our tax money for that shit. Seeing him turn this country into a circus, maybe hoping that it would distract us from the Epstein crap, okay? You know what I'm saying? I don't know why. No other president would ever think of doing something like that unless it was the Roman Empire. Okay, I mean, it's just, you know, I just think of, you know, where does this guy get his thoughts and ideas from? From movies and TV shows? I mean, is that where this guy has absolutely no creativity at all. He has no idea about how, you know, a leader is supposed to run a nation. He only knows how, you know, a president runs a company, but his ideas of running a company is take all the money out of it so I can run away with it. You know, so he's the last guy you want sitting in the White House. The last guy. You want people out there that said they want to drain the swamp, you should have ran from him, because he is the swamp. Okay, we tried to show you that in past, what he did in the past, that this guy is just a money taker. Okay, he is the swamp. He's the last thing you people should have put in there. Okay. In fact, the reflecting pool is all turned green now. He's turned that into a swamp because of the shit that he's doing over there. Okay, I think maybe that could be some kind of a divine message sent to us. You know, you guys, you know, he ain't draining no swamp. He made one. So, like I said, everything this guy does, it turns to shit. And he's touched this country, and it's turning to shit. Now, you could say, oh, well, China's doing this to us through him. Okay, whatever makes you feel like you can understand what he's doing, that's fine. I don't care. The problem is, he's the problem. It ain't China. If China is doing what you say he's doing, they wouldn't be able to do it if the president wasn't helping, right? So, what do you do to stop China from fucking with us? You get rid of the president with somebody who will resist China, okay? But I'm just saying, I mean, as a, to go with their theory, if that's what's going on, it wouldn't work without Trump's, assistance. But, if what I'm thinking is China has nothing to do with it, but of course it's good news for them when they see our country fall apart, right? So that, yeah, they're clapping and applauding over there. Doesn't necessarily mean they had anything to do with it. It just means they're happy about it. But what we need to do here is the same answer either way, is to get rid of the guy in Washington. He's got to go. And we can't just ignore that, that fact. I mean, because when we do that, we allow that precedent that was put into place by putting a criminal in the White House to gain more legitimacy. Now, I know that might sound like, oh, he can't do it now because nobody likes him. Well, maybe, but he's still there. And if we don't punish him for being there and doing what he's doing, then that kind of in itself legitimizes it's okay to have a criminal as a president, right? Now, all these Republicans out there who bitched and complained about Bill Clinton because he had an extramarital affair, okay, where are these people now? You see Trump doing the shit that he's doing that's hurting even Republicans, and he's mixed up with some nasty shit with Jeffrey Epstein that he doesn't want getting out. Now let's say Trump was Bill Clinton, same things going around. If that was Bill Clinton instead, where do you think the country would be today? Okay, where do you think would there even be a MAGA? You know what I'm saying? So, we're living in really dubious times here where we're not very honest with ourselves. I mean, we're playing the political game like it matters. The only game you should be playing is taking care of the working class. Whoever said, that's what you got to care about. It doesn't, party politics, that's bullshit. Okay? Being loyal to your party over your country is disastrous. Okay? Parties come and go. Read your history. All right? But your country's always going to be there. And so you should be focused on the health of your nation instead of the health of your party. Because your party, good or bad, is going to affect the health of this country. So, people, I would think that the best way to begin that process is for everybody to just not get involved in any political party, period. You vote as a voter, okay? Not as a Democrat or as a Republican. I think people should just say, enough. I'm not playing this stupid game, right versus left. I'm just going to be me. Go to the polls, and I'm going to use my judgment, what I think is right, and I'm not going to care if I'm voting for a Democrat or a Republican or an independent or whatever. I'm not going to care about that. I'm just going to vote what I believe to be the right choice. Okay? Because they take my fucking money when I give donations and I get nothing in return. How many MAGA people donated tons of money to Trump to win, thinking they were going to get a return for their buck, and they ain't got it yet? Very little. I don't think anybody has. I mean, unless you're a wealthy, in the upper echelons of the ladder, there maybe they've got a return, but the rest of us, the working poor in the MAGA movement, didn't get a goddamn thing, and so they feel betrayed, and they rightly so. They should feel betrayed because he did betray them. And all that money they donated, I haven't donated money to a Democrat party or whatever party. I never do, because I think it's like pissing your money away when I need it. Why should I give them money and then hope to get something back? I don't donate money. My vote means more to them than the fucking money I give them, okay? I will decide what my vote. They will get that. But I'm not going to give them money, because money should not be part of the political process. They're going to get money no matter what anyway, from the wealthy or whoever, okay? Because both parties are mixed up in that, getting money from wealthy people. They don't need my bucks to add to the little, my little tiny donations to the pile, okay? That's for me. That's for me. I have to be conscientious with my money, especially these days. I'm not going to piss it away. I don't care who it is. I don't care if Jesus Christ was running on the Democrat ticket. He ain't getting a dime from me, okay? I'm sorry. And I don't think that any decent person who's running for a seat in the government should be asking anybody for any donations. Okay? Because that's the first step in getting money out of politics, isn't it? To just stop your influence to it. But we have to, you know, the wealthy are always going to influence it. And as long as they do, this is what we're going to get. So it doesn't matter how many millions or you know they can get, they can always match it, and then some. Okay, when I talk, you know, I think like Bernie Sanders talking about grassroots movement. Well, that's fine, but can you try and do it without the donations? Just earn the vote, because at the end of the day, that's all they really need is your vote. Okay, not your money. The money's just paying for the crap they spend it on, you know, like TV ads and the little signs and stuff and all that shit. Okay, people can do that without having to, you know, like the sign. People can just do that on their own, at their own expense, if that's what they want to do. But they shouldn't be donating money to anybody. Okay, this is supposed to be a system of government that has its own way of paying the senators and stuff. But for some, that's not enough. They got to be getting handouts from the goddamn wealthy. You know, briefcases of fucking money coming through the fucking door. That's what they want. And look what that's done to our country. So I'm in my way, I'm just saying, no, you're not getting a dime. Okay? I'm sorry. It doesn't mean that I don't support, you know, what you're standing for or fighting for. I just ain't giving you a fucking dime, because I don't believe that the money should be important, okay, in this system. If you can't win your votes without people donating money, then, you know, what's the point? What's the fucking point? You know, because forevermore you're going to be needing money for this, needing money for that, and it's an endless fucking pit. How many people donated money to the Harris campaign when she ran for president? And look what happened. You see what I'm saying? The wealthy managed to get Trump in there again. So no matter what they fucking get for money, the wealthy can always surpass that. Okay? But all they need at the end of the day is your fucking vote. That's it. And if everybody gets out and vote, like I said before, the Democrats would always outnumber the Republicans, because there's more of us than there are of them. So if everybody got out and voted, and I mean everybody that can vote, votes on election day, Republicans can't win. Even if they gerrymander the shit out of the country, they can't win. That's the way you defeat that kind of cheating before the fact, is people have to come out en masse. All right? That's how you defeat that. All right, let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
This is me! I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you. Original.
Mrs. Trump, what's your favorite color?
First of all, I was never an escort, and I was not hired by Jeffrey Epstein to spy on Donald.
I was told we couldn't talk about that.
I was not trafficked into the country through a modeling agency co-owned by Epstein and Paolo Zampoli.
I feel like it's black.
Furthermore, I strongly deny any allegations that my first 11 encounters with Donald were paid in a mix of cash and Trump-branded merchandise.
Like t-shirts and coffee mugs?
While I admit I have been on an airplane before, I was never tasked with smuggling underage girls posing as my nieces through customs onto Epstein's private jet, which served some of the best breakfast burritos I have never eaten.
This is starting to sound like a confession.
In fact, I have never met or heard of Jeffrey Epstein until you just asked about him.
But I never asked about Epstein.
I'm sorry, but my lawyer has told me I can't talk about that.
Or maybe gold. Follow us for daily satire and...
too, we'd save a lot of focus. But unfortunately, I think Harris, she's got this weird thing where I actually think she kind of likes war. Maybe she feels like a tough guy about it. I don't know why it is. And they seem to be sort of sleepwalking us into a war with Iran. It's like the dumbest of all possible worlds.
Starting a war. I don't know what it's for. Let's open up the door for new recruits to join the Marine Corps. We'll need some more, even if Baron's feet are sore. Take JD. Take JD. Take out Dawn. Take JD. Please be gone, for the world is screwed. So needless a war. It's costing billions. We didn't need that money anymore. The cost of warfare can just be ignored. It's less than the fee at Pete Hegseth's liquor store. Take JD. Take JD. Take out Dawn. Take JD. Please be gone, for the world is screwed.
Donald Trump and I believe that America ought to be tough and America ought to have a strong foreign policy. But when people like Kamala Harris send our sons and daughters, our young people, to fight in stupid wars, it is the young generation that carries the burden of that. We're going to stop sending our young people to faraway lands. We are not the policemen of the world. We need to use our young people here at home.
I've been a recovering neocon for 6 years now. Like the foolishness with which we ricochet around the world, intervening, think it was in our best interest, when really we just overturn the table and create something worse in almost every single scenario, has led to the hubris of the Pentagon is that they want to now tell other countries how to do counterinsurgency based on what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Are you kidding me? So you really have learned nothing. Okay, nothing.
All the things that he said, yeah, is it a lie or are the brain cells left in his head? He's playing on his golf course and dancing, lounging in bed, counting up all the schoolgirls dead. Take JD. Take JD. Take out Dawn. Take JD. Please be gone, Mega Man. Take JD. Take JD. Take out Dawn. Take JD. Please be gone, Republican.
This is a message for every Republican currently sitting on a podcast, squinting into microphones, blinking into ring lights, wandering onto cable news or YouTube or some sweaty little live stream saying, Donald Trump changed. Donald Trump duped me. This isn't what I expected. This isn't what he sold me. This isn't what he ran on. You fools. No. He didn't change. He didn't dupe you. And unless you spend the better part of a decade aggressively committed to ignoring the evidence of your own goddamn eyes and ears, you were not fooled. Donald Trump is exactly who he has always been. Exactly the same. He is incapable of change. He's always been a con man. Always. Marco Rubio even managed to tell you in 2016 before he sold his soul. Everybody knew. Everybody's always known. Everybody. A fake university, a charity scandal, business fraud, lies stacked on lies, stacked on lies. A man who moves through people, institutions, loyalty, truth itself. Like appetite is the whole point. And you didn't care because he wrapped the whole steaming pile of bullshit in enough rage, enough resentment, enough vengeance, enough intolerance, enough sneering cruelty aimed squarely at people you hated that you were willing to buy whatever the he was selling. You liked the hate. You liked the humiliation. You liked the permission structure. You liked the spectacle. You liked that somebody finally stood at a podium and said out loud the ugly shit rattling around in your own resentments. So spare me this sudden confusion. You didn't care when he mocked a disabled reporter or bragged about grabbing women by the pussy. You didn't care when he attacked a teenager with autism demeaned a POW, went after a Gold Star family reduced to grieving military widow too. He knew what he signed up for. You didn't care when he skipped the dignified transfers of remains, or when he called the service members who had fallen in war suckers and losers. You didn't care when classified national security secrets ended up in his fucking bathroom, boxed up beside clutter, chandeliers, ego, and breathtaking carelessness. You didn't care when he stole from a charity or ran a fake university, when contractors got stiffed, casinos collapsed, business fraud followed him around like bad cologne and broken promises. You didn't care when he golfed through a pandemic while Americans died by the thousands, when it is what it is, drifted across a country thick with grief, ventilators, funeral homes, ambulance sirens. You didn't care when children were slaughtered in classrooms, and the answer became some variation of, we have to get over it. You didn't care when he incited a brutal, deadly attack on our capital so he could cling to an office he had already been voted out of, while windows shattered, officers were beaten, blood-streaked hallways, and lawmakers ran. You didn't care because he hated who you hated, mocked who you mocked, sneered where you sneered, demeaned and targeted the people you viewed as beneath you. As long as the cruelty landed where you wanted it to land, as long as the humiliation belonged to somebody else, as long as he fed grievance, resentment, revenge, and dressed it up as righteousness, you didn't care. And then one day, some of you made the fatal mistake. You questioned him. Maybe you demanded accountability for the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. Maybe you wondered out loud whether launching an illegal, unconstitutional war that sent 13 of our troops home in flag-draped coffins was a prudent decision. Maybe you shuddered at the thought of handing over $1.8 billion of our tax dollars to cop beaters and shit smearers. Maybe for 10 whole seconds you stopped clapping, and that was it. Toast. Because the thing Mike Pence figured out, the thing Mike Pompeo figured out, the thing Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert are figuring out is this. Donald Trump never cared about you. Not even a little. He cared about your usefulness. That's it. That's the whole relationship. Useful until you hesitate. Loyal until you question. Valuable until you stop clapping. And the second usefulness expires, the second loyalty wobbles, the second you stop feeding the appetite or defending the lie, he does what he's always done. He chews people up. And when he's finished, he spits them the fuck out. So spare me the podcast pity parade. Spare me the blinking confusion. Spare me the I didn't know. You knew. You just thought the consequences would never arrive at your doorstep. You thought the appetite would always point somewhere else. You hand-fed that beast raw meat for the better part of a decade because it snarled at the people you disliked and humiliated the people you thought deserved humiliation. Of course it turned around hungry. This was never a question of if. It was always a question of when. And now the leopard is eating your face because it was always going to eat your stupid fucking face.
Shit! Dad, Mr. Dingus is on the phone.
Who?
Mr. Dingus.
What's that dumbass want now?
Dad!
He heard that.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, so as you can see, I got stuff to read here to you. Michelle Obama humiliated Trump with a reminder to Trump that her husband won a peace prize. Okay, it says the former First Lady Michelle Obama issued a strong praise for her husband at the opening of the Barack Obama Presidential Center on the south side of Chicago on Thursday, today. And in that speech, she criticized President Donald Trump without mentioning his name. After words of thanks, she turned to her husband to talk about watching him serve 8 years in the White House. Hold on a second here. She said, quote, "I know it hasn't always been easy, but there hasn't been a single second through this experience that standing by your side hasn't left me in awe," unquote, Miss Obama said. Quote, 8 years in the crucible, and not once did you melt from the heat. Not once did you let it harden you. Instead, you used it to reveal your truest essence, your stubborn optimism and unflinching courage, your dazzling brilliance and unpretentious decency, your ferocious work ethic and absolutely unshakable moral fiber, and to do it all as a first and the higher standard that comes with all that. She recalled that he was criticized for not being experienced enough as a one-term U.S. Senator and constitutional law expert. She then delivered a thinly veiled takedown of Obama's critics, including the current president. Quote, "The lies about your birthright, your faith, your patriotism, the outrage when you stated the biological fact that if you'd had a son, that he too would be black. Yet, you were unflappable at every turn, always focused, always calm, always looking at the long view," unquote, she championed. Quote, "How absurd it is to even imagine that you might have buckled under the pressure, even once lashed out in frustration, lost your temper," unquote. She continued, "How absurd it is to imagine that you might have done anything but make your family and this country proud. No, you were too busy. You were doing the people's work, rescuing the economy, expanding healthcare, ending a war, ordering the Osama bin Laden raid, saving an auto industry, winning a Nobel Peace Prize, keeping us safe from Ebola, regulating the banks," unquote. Trump has been frustrated about this inability to win a Nobel Peace Prize. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, sitting behind former President Obama, could be seen laughing, turning to her husband, covering her mouth, and making a comment. She closed the speech saying that, quote, "A lasting legacy isn't a name on a building," unquote. Another slight at Trump, who pushed to add his name to the John F. Kennedy Center of the Performing Arts. At many points in the speech, the former president could be seen wiping away tears as his wife's voice echoed with passion and love. Yeah, that really, in a way, is kind of what drove Trump to get so jealous of this guy. First of all, he don't like black people, okay? Let's just put that out there. He didn't like the idea of a black president. And the fact that, he's been president not once but twice, Trump, okay, and he can't outdo what Obama did. It just pisses him off to no end. I mean, I think that keeps him up at night. That's probably the reason why he's up all hours of the night texting on his lie social network. Okay, he can't sleep because it bothers him to the bone that a black man did more than him. Okay, that he got a peace prize and all he got was a second-handed one from someone who doesn't know him very well, okay? I can't imagine, except maybe to stay out of prison, why this guy would even want to stay in the White House. I mean, he's been shamed to no end, okay? He's hated all around every corner in this country. I mean, wherever he goes, even overseas, people spit at him, they throw a finger at him. Nobody likes this guy. Nobody. Okay? And he's probably the most hated president this country will ever see. Okay? And I said that about George W. Okay? And I'm seeing now that, they could actually go lower than that, which they did. But I'm just saying, as of now, he's the most hated president this country ever had since the founding of the nation, okay? He's the worst. The worst. Okay? And how is he ever going to come out from under that? I don't care if he does good. You know, if somehow he snaps his fingers and everything gets rosy again, okay? It's too late. It's too fucking late. He failed his first time. He's failing his second time. Okay, that name is not going to want to be appeared anywhere. Anybody with the last name Trump, I would suggest you go to, you know, the town office or something. Have your fucking name changed, okay? Because that name is mud now in this country. Anybody with the last name Trump, I don't care if you're blood related or not, that name is going to go down in history as like Hitler. Anyone with the last name Hitler is going to be shunned. They're not going to be able to look at you without thinking of that son of a bitch, okay? That's the way it's going to be. Okay? And I just think that, you know, a lot of people today are finally waking up. They're finally getting woke about Trump. He's nobody's friend. He doesn't have friends, this guy. He has associates. Okay, he has employees, but he doesn't have friends. And people, a lot of his friends end up turning on him when they get fucked by him. Because the people that he brings into the fold as friends are also people of ill character. You know what I'm saying? So you fuck them over and they're going to fuck you over back. So these people are not loyal to him, so they can't be friends, right? I feel like, you know, what more needs to happen? What more needs to be said that hasn't already been said about Trump? I mean, if you haven't been paying attention, there's really nothing more anybody can say to convince you that this guy's bad news for the country. You should just, all you need to do is look around you. Talk to anybody. How are you doing financially? Talk to people. Tell them, look, you know, how's your life been since he became president? And if people measure the value of their life as they do in this country by how much money they got in their pocket or in their bank, most people are going to tell you, I've seen better days. Okay, I've seen better days. So I think that in itself, which is, you know, unfortunately the most important thing, as a, you know, people in this country put money above all things, okay? Which a lot of countries say we do that way too much, okay? Money isn't everything. Doesn't buy you happiness, doesn't buy you a fucking thing, because you can't take it with you. But because in this country, capitalism has made us, you know, crave money all the fucking time, now when people haven't got it, what do you think's going to happen? Okay, what do you think's going to happen when people can't reach into their pocket to buy a fucking bag of apples? All they got is lint in their hand. So when you kick the legs out from Americans who put value on money and now they don't have it, what do you think's going to happen? Okay, it's common sense. All right, let's look at some more shit here and see what's going on. Mike Johnson. Trump's presidency is over if Republicans lose the House. Let me see here. I've got a link here to that. Let's see. No, I don't want to see that. Okay, it says, Speaker Johnson just said the quiet part out loud. Quote, Trump needs all 4 years, not just 2, to fix the mess. And that's what we need. If we lost the midterms, heaven forbid, if we lost the majority in the House, it would be the end of the Trump presidency in a real effect, unquote. That's what's at stake this November. We are faced with a choice between succumbing to a dictatorship or stopping Trump's agenda in its tracks and making him a lame duck 2 years into his term. So, yeah, no shit, right? Yeah, so even you know, when you got people, party elites in the GOP, the Republican Party, of MAGA, saying this out loud, you know it's desperate. It's crunch time for them, okay? They're horrified at what's going to be coming down November. But at the same time, they shouldn't be surprised or horrified, because if we get control, if the Democrats get control of the Congress and the Senate, okay, or even just one of the two, That's resistance against Trump. If the Democrats that win actually put their foot down his throat, okay, they're going to have to stand up against him, and that's only going to be good news for us, no matter how that shakes down, okay? Because that means Trump is going to have a harder time, you know, unless he wants to break more rules, more laws, more of the Constitution in order to enact policies that shouldn't be enacted, because you got to have congressional approval to get through the Senate, and you know the system. So how is that going to be bad unless you are all in for Trump trying to destroy this country? I mean, what Mike Johnson's saying essentially is like, oh, well, if we don't keep Trump, we can't fuck the country over anymore. That would be bad for the Republic. It's like you're arguing a good thing. You know, how can you say this out loud and think that that's going to be bad news? That's exactly what the American people want. And he's making it sound like, oh, it's the end of everything. If you know, it's like, come on. So where the hell does this guy come off saying shit like that? Like it's going to be a dark day in America if, you know, if Trump doesn't, if we don't keep our majority. No, it might be a dark day for you, but it's going to be a bright, sunny day for the rest of us who have been craving, since Trump won that election, to undo that damage, undo the mistake that was made then. Okay? Because now we've lived enough. We've lived a year and a half under his dominion here, okay, in his second time in the White House, and it's worse than the first time he was president. It's worse now than it was then. I think we've kind of understand now what, you know, what Democrats are trying to warn us about, what Kamala Harris was trying to enlighten us about, because everything she said about this man was fucking head on, okay, 100%, everything. Go back and watch the fucking debates. Watch the speeches she gave about this man. Everything she said has come about. Everything. Everything. She wasn't lying to you. You know, it's sad that we went the other way, but I know why that happened, and so do you, okay? This country's not ready yet for a female president and a female black president. You know what I'm saying? It just ain't ready. It's got too many hang-ups. This country's got too many hang-ups in order to allow that to happen. While the rest of the world has already seen their share of female leaders, you know, of different nationalities, have already done that. They've already gone past us. There's more freedom in those countries than there is here. Okay? Women have a better standing in another country than they do in this one. And that's laughable, because we pride ourselves on being the pillar on the hill of freedom. And yet we're seeing things happening in other countries that we know in our hearts that would never happen here, at least not today. Okay? You'd rather vote for a fucking criminal, a rapist, a pedophile, over, you know, a female who's well educated, who has, you know, was a vice president, for Christ's sake. All right, what's this one here? It says, Trump says he likes the idea of blaming Vance if Iran deal doesn't work out. Once the details of Trump's embarrassing surrender deal with Iran were made public, it became clear that someone was going to have to fall on their sword, and it clearly wasn't going to be Trump. It appears that Vice President Vance is going to be the sin eater for the concessions we were forced to make to Iran, as one does when they lose a war. During remarks at the G7, Trump was asked whether he was setting J.D. Vance up to fall by sending him to personally sign the peace deal. Quote, I like that. If it works out, I'm going to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm blaming J.D., unquote, laughed Trump. Well, if he's laughing about that, that wasn't a joke. That's the truth coming. When the truth comes out of him, he laughs. You know, because he's a person who loves to lie first, but he's not comfortable telling the truth. So he, you know, it's like when you watch these cop shows and the people are lying. Okay, you could tell they're lying just looking at their mannerism. Okay, you know they're lying. Other prominent figures on right-wing media appear to have gotten their marching orders. Right-wing propagandist Ben Shapiro tried to make a quote, good czar, bad boyars, unquote, argument for the Iran deal, saying, quote, the vice president, the chief negotiator on this project, has not well served the president, unquote. See, already people are turning If Trump has anything reasonably and redeemable quality, it's that he shares our disgust for the people who debase themselves on his behalf and delights in making them eat shit. J.D. Vance spent the entire war leaking to the media about how he was quietly disapproving of the war, likely in preparation for his 2028 run, and now he's going to have to take the blame for it. The irony is delicious. Yeah, J.D. Vance. You know, Republicans never really liked J.D. Vance to begin with, okay? Now, I don't know how many of you people believe that, but I do remember the things J.D. Vance said about Trump when he was running against him in the primaries and stuff like that, and he didn't have anything nice to say about him. In fact, he talked like I did about the guy, okay? He talked like I do. You know, he said some pretty nasty things about Trump that were all true, apparently, but then when Trump bought him, okay, he turned right around and started talking the other way. So that means he's got no spine. He can't stand up for his principles. But yeah, he did enough damage where people said, "You're picking him for your vice president." People were really pissed about that. Okay, MAGA does not like him. Okay, and they still don't, because they don't think that he's actually standing 100% behind Trump, which, you know, I don't think he is either. I think he does on cue what he needs to do to look like he does, but I don't think he really likes Trump that much at all. Let's see. Keep that. Paralympian Democrat Josh Turek goes for gold in must-win Senate race in Iowa. Josh Turek is a two-time Paralympic gold medalist for Team USA and self-described prairie populist, currently representing the reddest state House seat held by a Democrat in all of Iowa. The same grit and determination that helped Josh overcome 21 surgeries by the age of 12 to become a U.S. Paralympian will serve him and all of Iowa well in the U.S. Senate. But he needs your help to win back the open seat currently held by retiring Republican Johnny Ernst. So this is the time, you know, where, you know, he could run and probably get it, you know, if he holds to the message about, you know, what he wants to do, okay, to get people back on their feet, okay. That's what people want to hear. They want to hear somebody give them some hope, for Christ's sake. Okay? And if his messages stay hopeful and he reminds people of what's been damaged that needs to be fixed, okay, I think, you know, that's a good way to start. That's a good way to start. And, of course, the follow-through is even more important, that once you win, you do exactly what you say you're going to do. So that's what people are going to be looking for in whatever race out there. MAGA people are just going to do what they always do, is vote against themselves. So they're self-destructive. Israel issues new Lebanon occupation map in defiance of U.S.-Iran peace deal. Of course. Israel's pissed off. They're pissed off that this, you know, I'm telling you, Netanyahu had Trump by the nose ring, okay? Trump's war against Iran was started largely at the behest of Prime Minister Netanyahu, who saw this as his only opportunity to try and take out the only regional power capable of keeping Israel's expansionist ambitions in check. But the Israelites have just learned the downside of trying to deal with the world's most selfish man, finding themselves entirely cut out of the negotiating process and publicly derided by Trump, who has clearly lost his patience with Netanyahu government's shocking brutality and their constant efforts to sabotage his peace deal. The Israels appear intent on doing so again. On Thursday, the IOF released a map showing an expanded zone of control for its troops in Lebanon and rejected calls to withdraw its forces in direct defiance of the Iran peace deal, which asserts the, quote, the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Lebanon, unquote, and an immediate end to the violence. Israel has killed 3,912 people, wounded 11,873 others, and displaced more than 1 million from their homes with its invasion, and has been documented committing relentless war crimes against civilians, hospitals, and journalists. Unless Trump is willing to take the unprecedented act of withholding aid and funding to Israel if they refuse to cooperate with the peace deal, this will be the second peace treaty signed at Versailles that led to more violence. Okay, in other words, enjoy the the lowering of the gas prices, but that could go the other way if Trump decides, okay, forget the peace deal, we're going to step back in with Israel. Because I can guarantee you right now, the Jewish people, the influencers, are pissed off as all merry hell at Trump, which is probably what's contributing to the plummeting approval numbers Trump's getting now. Okay? And they're going to be putting all kinds of pressure on our government to forget the peace deal, continue to fight with Israel. And I'm saying, if Trump buckles and does that, it's just further another example of Trump without a spine. Okay, that he's bought and paid for, that he's under everybody else's control except ours. Okay, everybody's pulling him around. And I feel like, whatever peace deal or thing or whatever he signed, I feel like it's just paper, with him, it doesn't mean anything. It's just, he was getting pressure to stop this, and now he's going to get pressure again not to stop it. You see what I'm saying? You can't run a country like that. You've got to have in your mind a moral compass to know with yourself that what you're doing is the right thing. Trump doesn't have that compass. Otherwise, we never would have got involved with this fight between Israel and Iran in the first place. He saw something there that he thought might might benefit him. Maybe the distraction. Okay, I don't know. But now now that this distraction's been going on, people have gotten their fill of it and they're sick of it, and so he all of a sudden, for whatever reason, he decides, okay, I'm going to stop it, and because everybody doesn't like it, it's making me hated more than ever. Okay, and now his approval numbers still drop. Okay, and so it's like, when you sink so low, there's no coming back out of it, really. If you think about it, if your approval numbers sink to a point, there's really no rising above that. There really isn't. Even in Netanyahu's case, there's still people in Israel that don't like him at all and blame him more than they do Trump for the shit that they've had to go through the last few years now. Okay, so they're really upset, and Netanyahu, the war saved him from getting, thrown out of office, because that's what he was looking at. And when this fucking fight started over there in October, that's when everything changed over there, and he was able to stay in his seat of power. Okay, but now the people are getting pissed at him because this has gone on so long. They've lost so much. A lot of people dead. And the relations between our two countries is fractured again. The United States has stopped again, and those people over there are mad because Netanyahu is not following suit here to try to stop this themselves. Okay, they started it. Well, no, he didn't start it. Okay, but they could have stopped it once they retaliated. They didn't have to turn this into a genocide the way they did, and go into Gaza and just carpet bomb that thing from one end to the other. They didn't have to do that. Okay, and they committed a lot of fucking war crimes since then. Innocent people and children and people that were in the hospital. Okay, he didn't hold back anything, which doesn't make them look any better than the adversaries they were fighting. Two wrongs, you know what I'm saying? They don't make a right. So this country could see that. They couldn't. Or at least Netanyahu couldn't, because he was blinded by his own ambition. A lot like Trump, It's funny how these two people end up in the seat of power at the same point in history. It's almost biblical that something, was going to happen that was not going to be good for anybody, But, so yeah, they're mad. They're mad about that, and I imagine he's getting a lot of flack from people that support Israel. Okay, I imagine that, and I don't know what's going to happen with the peace treaty. Something could happen. Iran might decide, let's start in with bomb something else, and that treaty will disappear. Okay, because nobody likes Trump either. Maybe that's why they sent J.D. Vance to sign it, because they didn't want to see Trump there to sign it. They don't like him. They don't trust him as far as they can piss, okay? They don't like him at all. And I don't blame Iran for not liking or trusting Trump. I don't like him or trust the guy either, okay? And that's why they sent Vance. But Trump's trying to say, well, if it goes wrong, I can blame him for it. Now, they're still going to blame you, Trump, okay? It doesn't matter what Vance signs, what his name, okay? They're still going to look at you. They know Vance is second, okay? You're the number one. He's second. He knows you're following. He's following your orders, okay? Okay. Let's see. Hegseth announces in Brussels a review of U.S. forces in Europe and a NATO 3.0. The Secretary of War Crimes threw a fit Thursday morning, trashing our NATO allies for refusing to let us use their bases to commit war crimes in Iran, and announcing a 6-month review of U.S. forces in Europe, with the implication that U.S. forces would be removed if the host countries don't take responsibility for their own security. Quote, "This will be a real review. It will be designed to ensure that NATO is moving fast and irreversibly toward Europe, stepping up to take primary responsibility for the defense of Europe," unquote, he told his NATO counterparts in Brussels, before going on to complain that Europe was too busy focusing on gender and immigrants instead of building tanks and bombs. God help us. An embarrassing tantrum by a homicidal sociopath who has no business being in government. Oh, Jesus, they're focusing. I think in a way, this was Hegseth's way of blaming Europe for the fact that the United States, or that Trump had to make this arrangement with Iran here, okay? And he feels like, oh, well, Europe should have been more. Europe has already been building its military, and not because of what's been going on in Ukraine, not because of what's been going on in Iran. They started building up its military since they realized that Trump was not going to listen to anything NATO said or anything they were going to do. Okay, they knew then. The United States, they're already preparing for a date when the United States is going to leave the UN. They might even be preparing to kick us out anyway. Okay, depending on how much they hate Trump and how they feel about our government and where it's at today, we may not be a member of that organization for very long anyway, no matter what Trump does. Okay, so Germany's been building up its weapons. Italy, England, okay, they've already been sinking a lot of money that, they really never put into before in their own military defense, okay? And, a lot of them are saying, well, Russia is very active, but Russia's falling apart. Russia cannot fight another country right now. Their economy is in free fall over there, okay? They used to be the oil dominant in the world, but now they're not. Now they're actually importing oil from like China and other places right now. Okay, they don't have enough oil. There's like remember the 70s, how there were lines at the gas station? They're having that over there now. The grocery stores over there. Food is scarce. They're printing money like it's going out of style. Their inflation over there is 3-4 times more than what it is here. Okay, it's bad. It's worse than here, if you can imagine that. Okay, so Russia is not going to be, that big of a problem for the rest of Europe, because they can't even fight this thing with Ukraine and win. Ukraine is holding them back from total victory, and it's cost them so much. I mean, you got people in Russia elitist people in Russia that were pro-Putin that are secretly leaving that country to flee to like Switzerland or, you know, America or somewhere, okay? Walking out of there with money, okay, right out of the Russian treasury. They're just right and left. They're leaving there because they see the handwriting on the wall. They know what's going to happen. The country is actually, it's going to fall like in there. It happened during the 80s, the early 80s. They had the same thing happen there, and then it wasn't long after that when the Soviet Union fell. So it's happening again, and people are seeing, you know, they learn from history that this is a sign that the Russian government is going to fall again. Okay, so, you know, that's what's going to happen to them. They're not going to be in any way capable of mounting a fucking war with anybody. But still, Europe is arming itself up. They're building up their forces, okay? Because they're getting ready for the day where the United States isn't going to matter to them anymore, okay? It's not going to matter to them. And I can't say I blame them, really. I mean, I think that they should have done this before. I mean, they've had decades to be able to make themselves less reliant on us to protect them, okay? We gave them that protection for a long time, but I think they've had enough time to really figure out, you know, a strategic way of protecting themselves with a little less help from us. That would benefit. We wouldn't have had to spend so much goddamn money on our military that like we did during the 80s, okay, if they had, after World War II, began to build up defenses and armies and stuff like that, okay? But instead, they focused on their society and helping people, which isn't bad, okay? But they could have gone a little, done both things at once, okay? No government can be focused totally on one thing. They're always focused on more than, they could have been focused on both. And by now, they'd have a pretty good military defense system in place now, okay? I mean, there are some, I mean, we did help them get some things, you know, were like connected in a way with our militaries and stuff, but they needed to have forces there where they wouldn't need a supplement from us to help them. So, in a way, they're doing what I hoped they would do for years, thanks to Trump. And if we're kicked out of NATO because of Trump, that's, you know, hey, if they can kick us out and they don't need us anymore, then that's good for them, because then, you know, that might mean less money that we have to spend on our military to protect other countries. I would like to see a drop in the defense budget. I think all of us would agree there, right? Okay, that's it for today. So I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. So subscribe, comment, share. Keep your ears open for health issues out there. And please help each other when you can. There's a lot of needy people out there that can use a little bit of help. Maybe just enough to get over the next hurdle, okay? So I'll talk to you guys later.